Hi everyone, and welcome back to the 2014 Core 77 Design Awards. I'm Sarah Spear, and I'm the Program Manager here in New York City, and you're here to see the Speculative Design honorees. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to the team who is in Perth, Australia right now, and they're going to go ahead and tell you who they picked.
I'm on. Good morning. From the future. Actually, I'm 12 hours ahead of you, so I suppose it's appropriate for speculative design. I'm in Perth, Western Australia, where it's kind of wintry and very wet today. Thank you so much for inviting me to chair this jury for speculative design. I'm Oron Catts. I'm the director of Symbiotica, the Center of Excellence of Biological Arts at the University of Western Australia here in Perth. And unfortunately, none of my jury members could join me here today, so I'll have to do the announcements myself, but obviously they're all in spirit. I must admit that when I was called to do this jury duty, I found it quite interesting, and I thought that it would be quite good to try and select a diverse group of core jurors in order for us to have a much broader view about what speculative design is all about. So I selected Robert Foster, who's the founder of Think & Co., a design firm here in Australia, in Canberra, doing quite a lot of very interesting design works that are being represented and shown all over the world. And then I selected also Laura Beloff, who's an associate professor and the head of section Interaction Design and Computer Game Development at the IT University in Copenhagen. And the last jury member was Zack Denfeld, who's the co-founder of the Center of Genomic Astronomy and Co-Climate. And both Laura is based in between Helsinki and Copenhagen, and Zack is a nomadic person. I think he's based in Dublin at the moment for a few weeks. So we needed to somehow arrange the meetings in such a way that we'll be able to discuss all of the entries that we dealt with. But there was never one point where we all were able to be together. So it was all done, I suppose, very much like speculative design in a very broad way and across continents, time zones, and areas of interest and discipline. And I suppose speculative design, by its own nature, is a very slippery term. So one of the reasons for selecting such a broad team was to try and put it back together. It was a challenge for all of us to try and sort out the entries and figure out what speculative design is all about and how we should best represent it through our selection. As Robert commented, speculative is a word which is fraught with ambiguity. So choosing between a design feasibility and its inventive conjuncture was a difficult task for all of us. But I think we've done quite well, and I think that we were able to select some very interesting group of entries. What we found, which was quite apparent, was that within this context of speculative design, it seems that the hardest challenge for us was to actually select the professionals, because despite the fact that there were some very strong entries, no one project really stood out as the clear winner. So, but we will talk about it later when we reach the professional section. But we found that the student work was quite amazing. So we had quite a lot of discussions about the works within the student category, and we had to select, and we decided to select quite a few in order to somehow present the breadth of this field within kind of the student work, as well as the quality of the work that we were seeing coming through there. So I suppose, because time is running short and we really need to go through the list, let me start by mentioning the notables. And we'll start with the student notable. The first one that we chose was Weldon Note Money by Austin Holdsworth of the Royal College of Arts in London in the United Kingdom. He was dealing with a monetary system design within the cultural context of the F.B. Skinner's Walden 2, which is kind of a utopic notion, and Skinner was obviously the father of behaviorism. And that's kind of working with his notion of this utopian society and coming up with some kind of a critical notion of monetary exchange. The second one was the Grip Hint by Suyang Lin and by Piranka Kodikel, and sorry about the pronunciation if I didn't pronounce it right, from the Copenhagen Institute of Interaction Design in Copenhagen, Denmark. And that's dealing with how to develop ways to engage with kids with autism. The third notable is Voice Booth by Jonessa Milonki of the Royal College of Arts in London, United Kingdom. And this is an interactive tool that trains users to act in real life. So it's using the voice and help using it to adapt for different situations. Then we have the project Alchemy, which is Crafting the Future of Food by Essie Johanna Golomb and Rosa Weber in Berlin, Germany. And that's basically using algae as a for textile printing. Then we have the Synthetic Anatomy by Simon Crane, Julian Golding of Victoria University in Wellington, New Zealand, and that's explore multi-material 3D printing, 3D scanning and application on to deal with the prosthetic industry. And we found that project quite interesting in this context. We then had Empathy by Jurian Tijek Wilnik of Eindhoven University of Technology in Amsterdam in Netherlands. And this is a project that explores new, more natural interactions approach for humans relating to the interactive intelligent objects, such as household robots. And we had a student notable here, which is the Communication, Assisting and Advancing Listening by Western Washington University, SRID in Seattle, Washington, the United States. This is a communication device concept that integrates hearing aid functionality into a fashionable consumer electronic earpiece. And you can see how those types of prosthetics or different types of aids are becoming more and more fashion statements. And the last student notable that we have here is Meetup by Sarah Ackbeld of Illinois Institute of Technology in Design in Chicago, Illinois, United States. And this uses speculative design to investigate the socio-cultural issues surrounding cultured meat, or meat that is grown from stem cells in the lab, something I'm very much involved with. So it was nice to see those kind of projects popping up. And now we're here to announce the runner-ups for the Students Core 77 Speculative Design Award. So we have 2 runner-ups in this category, and the first runner-up is Declaration of Interdependence by John Ryan of the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, in California, the United States. And Declaration of Interdependence is a series of interactive prototypes that position the individual and the collective role. Through those designed experiences, the project questions the centrality of the individual user in the interaction of contemporary social media and human-computer interface. We found that this piece being very, very strong. Many or some of our jury members were very, very keen on this project. In particular, the connect various discourses in art and design, technology, and social psychology. The project critiqued the central position of the individual in technological network society through design speculative artifacts. The author, ironically, proposes possibilities for a new kind of individualism and mode of action through the interventions with common computer interface, basically a computer that requires multiple users at the same time. The project questions the foundation of our contemporary construction and self-ownership, which are also the basis for the existing design ideals for technological artifacts and network infrastructures. The Declaration of Interdependence reveals new insights into the conditional situation we live in through the experimental approach to complex social technological subjects. So yeah, we really like the way this project has been presented to us, and in a sense, I suppose when we think about speculative design, we really need to think about as being effective storytelling. I think the best pieces of speculative design are those who can tell those stories in the most engaging ways, and using more than just verbal, textual means to do so. So the winners and the runners-ups for this category are really the best storytellers we could find within this whole context of the entries that we received. The second runner-up, which is again quite an amazing story by itself, is the Svalbard counterfactual story of a sleepless archipelago by Faustin Laborel of Head, Geneva, in Geneva, Switzerland. The project is basically a counterfactual story of a sleepless archipelago, and it's got basically it's a fiction narrative in 3D. There's archives which are composed of drawings, diagrams, plans, and diegetic objects tell the story of Svalbard, an isolated archipelago in the Arctic Ocean where people stopped sleeping to adapt to their environment in the 1960s. The archives explore the consequences of the modification of sleep in this society, from citizens' behavior to their house planning, food, or means of transportation. The extreme scenario tends to question the notion of enhancement in the implication of designers and the implications of designers towards it. So really, again, this is kind of an amazing story told in so many different ways with such attention to details that we found worthy of being a runner-up for this category. We basically say the designer asked the simple question of what if a small human society didn't need to sleep? And working as an archaeologist documents the emergent social rituals and brings back selected artifacts. The judges were excited, judges are, yeah, we were very excited to see the speculative future driven not primarily by technological change, but by something much more social and psychological. The goal of the project was to imagine a total world transformed by different ways of living. The designers' attention to detail, clear visual language, and pure zaniness bring a fresh voice to the practice of design fiction. And again, it was an amazing story, and it was told in such a great way that we were all very much engaged with it. So I suppose now it's time to announce the winner of the student category. Just one second. Only water. Again, the winner was a project that we felt very strongly about. I think to a large extent, this really epitomizes for us what we felt very strong about how students have the privilege, in a sense, to engage with the questions of design, and especially in the context of speculative design, in somewhat of a much stronger way than what professionals are allowed to. And there's kind of, it's a really interesting thing to see that basically, because students don't have the restrictions of working with a client, they seem to be much freer to engage with the issues that speculative design raises in a much more, in a broader way, much more risky way, if you like, and a way that allows the stories to be told in what we found to be, to a large extent, much more interesting than the way the professionals had to do. And then we understand the restrictions that professionals need to face, but we still feel that it's really important for professionals to maintain some kind of this student spirit that we've seen coming up through all of those entries, and allow those storytelling techniques and the way in which those stories are being told to flourish. And what we found really interesting about the winner of this design, the speculative design category in the student section, was that it was telling stories in a very humble way, and in a way that didn't require too many resources. So let me just announce it. It's Wear Out by Jacob Bradsky and Betsy Calvin of the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, in California, in the United States. And what we found there is that basically Whereabouts, just a description of the project, is reconvince social impact and speculative design in the developing context. their approach privileged socio-cultural inquiry and provocation over solution delivery, and we found that also quite important within speculative design. That's really kind of epitomized what we felt speculative design should really stand for. The project consists of a series of bespoke objects that reframe 3 everyday sound interactions in order to stimulate discussions and provoke imagination in Ghana. At the same time, the representation of the project deliberately subvert expectations and challenge Western designers and audiences to reconsider what design could be and could look like in developing context. And we found that the project was done with extreme sensitivity and was done in a way that didn't require a large technological or even kind of imagining large technological interface or interaction. What we said this product for us is a demonstration that speculative design does not need to be highly technological in order to be successful. By using simple tools as storytelling devices, the designers were able to convey the multifaceted cultural situation, posing 3 what-if questions, which seems initially as very specific, some fundamental questions about the role design and designers can play when they come to fix problems. In particular, when design comes to the so-called developing countries, the project calls into attention the need to comprehend the complex context of operating within an intricate web of social, cultural, and economic situations that are all too often neglected by design. The project deals with these issues in a sensitive, very thought-provoking, and mature ways that are exemplary to what good speculative design projects should be. And you should really check out this project. We don't want to spend time in showing examples, but I think that what you would find would surprise you and hopefully would delight you and make you rethink the role of design, especially within the context of the designers moving into developing countries and trying to impose solutions. I think what this project really represents to us that designers can operate in other ways which might be even more effective, and also the humility of this interaction actually felt very, very strong and actually very powerful within this context. So I would like to congratulate the winners of the design, the speculative design category in the student section, because we felt that that was an extremely great example of where things can go. Now we'll move to the professional section. So as I said in my initial statement, we couldn't really find no one project really stood out for us as a winner. And as I mentioned, we really felt that that was somewhat because of the constraints that seems to be imposed on the professional designer when they're moving into the realm of speculative design and design fictions. Those are areas that are much harder for professionals to engage with. But also, in addition, I must admit that we were kind of puzzled by why some of the projects were being submitted to this category. We felt that some projects were out of place within this context. And while we understand some of the constraints that impose on practicing professional designers, we felt that not choosing a winner for this category should actually send a message of encouragement for professional designers to make more, to take more risks, to be bolder, and be more confident in their ability to develop what Dan and Robbie calls the what scenarios and prototypes, become better storytellers in a sense. Not just as we heard about the winner for the student category. It's not about finding solutions. I don't think that speculative design is really about solution finding. It's really about identifying the stories, those what-if stories that need to be told, and the questions that need to be asked in this context. So we selected, again, quite a few notables, and we selected 2 runner-ups, as we felt that those runner-ups represent together what we felt would have been a very successful professional approach towards the speculative design category. So let me start with the first notable in the professional section, and this goes to the New York City Beacon by Frog in San Francisco, California, USA, for the city of New York. And this is a payphone that reimagined in the smartphone era. So it's a new type of urban engagement with technology and connectedness, and the jury found it to be worthy of a notable mention. The second one is Millihat by Robert Muir of GE Healthcare in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Sorry again for pronunciation. In the United States for GE Healthcare and global ultrasound. And this is basically a portable 2D black and white ultrasound system for early risk detection for triage and pregnancy management. So this is kind of a cheap way of engaging with ultrasound, especially in places where access to those types of facilities are not available. The next notable goes to phone blocks by Dave Hackens in Halmond in the Netherlands. And this is a mobile phone that exists of separate components that can be clicked together. And that's something that is almost going beyond the speculative, and we're already starting to see similar approaches being developed. Then the next notable is Modular Recycling System by Dushan Olak in London, the United Kingdom. And this is a system that allows one to build, upgrade, and customize the recycling system to perfectly meet the specific household waste needs. And this is kind of a waste management project, but again, we found that it was extremely appropriate and within the context of speculative design. Then we have another notable, which is Dialogue by Artifact in Seattle, Washington, the United States. And this is a concept that is designed to help people with epilepsy to gain deeper understanding of the condition and make better decisions about their care. And the last notable in this category of professionals is Worldview by Chrisman Good in London, United Kingdom, for Paragon Space Development Corporation. And this was a very interesting, more of a speculative storytelling through the design of flights, the idea of space flights. And now we reach the two runner-ups. So as I mentioned, there's no winner, but we have two very, very good projects that are in the runner-up, that reached the runner-up stage within this category. And we have the Hyperform by Marcelo Coelho and Scarlett Tibbetts of Marcelo Coelho Studio in Massachusetts, the United States, for Formlabs. And this is a 3D printer that become affordable and basically, as 3D printers become affordable and ubiquitous, they're also becoming smaller, placing several constraints on the scale. So this was a way to kind of upscale and develop larger 3D printouts. And what we said about it, Hyperform is a speculative material research project inspired by the size constraints of desktop 3D printers. In order to overcome those spatial limitations, the designers developed a geometry that is visually arresting, generating form and maximizing printing capacity in a minimal space. It is unclear if those geometries have any useful purpose, but by asking the question, what if printers could create something larger than themselves, the designers opened up our imagination to material futures of various scales. And we found that the way it was done in a performative video that was unfolding the story and unfolding a very long 3D printed chain that moved us from the technological sublime to something much more mundane and strange. And we felt that that was a very strong project. And the last runner-up, and what will close this announcement today, is within the... Actually, we had 3 runner-ups, sorry, so we have 2 more runner-ups. Is the Parasitic Products by Patrick Stevenson Keating of Studio PSK in London, United Kingdom, for the VA Museum. And this project similarly pushes the separate components of an integrated fiction between human expectations concerning and the reclaim of the technological device by another parasitic design device. As one of the jury members, Robert Foster, commented, he particularly liked this product as, like most good design, nature did it first. So it's about kind of this parasitic relationship between those different products. And we enjoyed the proposal very much. We found that this project again worked in a very interesting way in trying to put all of those things together. And now, I'm aware of the time constraints. I really need to rush to the last runner-up, and that's I want to deliver a dolphin by Ai Hiwasakiya in Kawasawa Shai in Shinjuku in Japan, which was done for the Science Gallery in Dublin in Trinity College. And again, we found that this was an extremely evocative storytelling that generated quite a lot of very emotional response within the jury. We felt that this project represents the power of speculative design to identify problems and intensify them through a well-thought and delivered scenario. The project touches on the relationship of humans and other non-human animals. Its starting point is already that of otherness being asked from, the question itself is being asked from a non-Western, non-male perspective. And the questionable idea of giving birth to a non-human, endangered animal, as a way of to deal with the human overpopulation and non-human animal extinction is compounded with the proposition of actually eating the very same offspring. So it was an extremely provocative, extremely well-delivered story that we felt was appropriate of the runner-up position here. And I hope that I made justice to all of the works, and I hope that I made justice to all of the hard work that my colleagues, because it was an extremely difficult task, but I think it was really worthwhile, and we enjoyed it immensely. And this interaction with the material that was provided to us and with each other was extremely useful, and I hope that the designers that submitted the work there also found the same. And I would like to thank Core 77 for giving us this opportunity to do it. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for taking the time to pick this great list of honorees. And thanks to everyone who entered. Looks like we had a lot of really great stuff in the student section. Students, keep submitting. We love to see it. And one final thank you to our presenting sponsor, Intuit, for helping make these live announcements possible. And that's it for now. We hope to see you later this week for some of our other announcements. Have a good night.